My name is Fredy Kuenzler and I'm in the game of peering for 11 years now. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to the program committee of FPIF to present here. I was already in Dar es Salaam 2 months ago and was talking about some traffic engineering, and it seems that it was a bit difficult for some, so I'm going to do not as technical presentation now. From the last presentation, you probably remember this picture of the standard peering coordinator, how it looked like. In German, we call it eierlegende Wollmilchsau, which is egg-laying wool milk pig, or proper translation is actually a jack of all trades. So, 2 words about INIT7, what we're doing. We're from a small country, Switzerland, and if I say small, it means really the number of inhabitants. I just figured that Ghana is about 2.5 times as the size of Switzerland, and Nigeria probably more than 20 times. INIT7 is a private-owned company, and we run a backbone. Mostly across Europe. We have some extent to the United States, and we're present on about 20 internet exchange, close to 1,000 BGP peers or customers. So that you have an imagination of the backbone. This is actually the marketing slide that I skipped that last time, but I'm coming to the topic now, and also the disclaimer. I'm just going over it. Peering, that's the question of my presentation. Is it really worth to peer? And I'm focusing really on the monetary aspect of peering now, not the technical advantages. I just leave them out. You know them: better reachability, better stability, less latency, etc., etc. So I'm going to talk only about the financial aspect here. The common rule of the thumb is peering is cheap, is good, and transit is expensive, is bad. But is that really true? So I made up a sample network here, which could be probably most of the providers' networks in various countries look like this. We assume that the network itself is eyeball heavy, so the outbound traffic from the network going to the internet is probably about 1 versus 5 times more inbound, which is traffic flowing from the internet into the provider's network, which is here, in that case, AS4. It's not working, never mind. So, I assume that this AS4 has 2 transits, which is AS1 and AS2. And they also peer locally in the country itself. So if we take the example of Ghana, they probably would peer in the Ghana Internet Exchange, or Kenya would be in the KIXP, etc. So we make some figures. The AS4 is located in country, in that case. Has mainly eyeballs, and AS4 buys transit capacity from AS1 and AS2. Let's assume they have each 1 gigabit link to each of the 2 transits, and both transits charge 10,000 euro per month, which is 10 euro per megabit. Then we have the local internet exchange connection. So in that example, Ghana Internet Exchange, and they do about 20 megabit of traffic over this link. And I ignored the cost for the local internet exchange in that example, partly because some of these exchanges are for free or for really cheap. Total traffic of the network is 1 gigabit, 95 percentile. I just learned that 95 percentile is actually not relevant in Africa, but never mind. So we have some headroom in case of one transit, if one transit is actually has an outage, and all traffic is routed via one transit. So the link would then be saturated, but in normal operations we have plenty of capacity. So if we look at the financials, the local exchange peering, in that case, Ghana Internet Exchange isn't really relevant to the total cost, because it causes only about 2% of the traffic. Peering is nice to have, because for the non-financial aspects, certainly, the network engineer who is employed, who is there anywhere, he can do some nice configuration work, and he can participate in the industry community and go to events like this, and communicate and interconnect on a peer level with other engineers. So it's good to build relations and make the internet in general better, because if the engineer knows where to ring, knows his counterpart on the other network in case of a network problem, it's easier to get that fixed. So there is no extra labor for local peering, which has to come into account. But what we actually want to achieve is we would like to have more peering traffic and less transit. So 2% peering versus 98% transit is not really a good ratio, at least not monetary. So what can we do about this? We can hope that large content networks such as Google or Akamai would actually build a cache locally connected to the in-country exchange, in that case Ghana Exchange, which probably would offload some transit capacity to peering. But this is not an option we can influence much. So another option would be we connect to a remote exchange. And so if we think of a transport link to M6, the question is, how much financial gain can we expect when we do that? So I suggest we do a math scenario. We keep one link, one local transit with 1 gigabit connectivity for 10,000 euro per month within the country. On one, probably the one which has lower service, we cancel it and we buy instead a gigabit transport capacity to Europe, and we buy transit in Europe, and we buy also an M6 port and collocation space and start peering remote. So we have saved the 10,000 euro per month for the one transit, and this is our budget to spend. So if we look at the figures, so we have the budget of 10,000. 1 gig M6 port is actually 500 euro per month. Then we need collocation space, which is probably about 1,500 per month. We have 1 gigabit transit capacity we buy in Amsterdam, which is another 1,000. So actually this is the price in Amsterdam, or in other locations in Europe. You pay about €1 per megabit of internet transit. And then we need the long-haul capacity, and I assume that this is probably €5,000 per month in my example. Depends, of course, where is actually the network we're talking about, and who is the carrier and who is the contract and the negotiation, etc. So it's a raw assumption. So the total net gain I make here is about €2,000 per month, but I didn't consider setup fees in this calculation. I didn't consider travel expense, possible remote hands we have to hire. Then we have, of course, an additional router we have to purchase and deprecate. And And then labor is also probably coming into account, because if you want to peer with 300 networks in Amsterdam and do that not via route service, it's quite some work to be done, and you write a lot of emails back and forth. So if you want to have an idea about this, I suggest you talk to Andrew, because he's right now in the process of setting up AM6 peerings. It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it depends who you're dealing with. If it's smart, you just ask him while he's sitting at the table and he does it for you, sitting there.
All right. So the question actually is, when we just save 2,000 euro per month, is it really worth the hassle of peering in Amsterdam, or should we just stick with our current transit supplier, which is probably not a good choice, but it's at least less hassle? So do we have alternatives to make the business case more interesting? Let's assume we have 2 times 10 gig ports instead of 2 times 1 gig. And each port we buy for 50,000 euro per month, which is 5 euro per megabit. And this is actually a price. When we buy more, we get a better price per item. This is normal. So we do the same scenario. We keep one of the links, pay further 50,000, and the other one we cancel. So we have 50,000 per month to spend. And so here is the calculation. We have a budget of 50,000. We buy a 10 gig port from Henk, and he would charge us 1,750 euro per month. So we buy also a rack in Amsterdam, which is 1,500 per month. And then we don't buy 10 gig of IP transit capacity in Amsterdam, but only 5, because we expect to shift quite a bit of traffic towards peering. So we save also there. And then last but not least, we need a 10 gig capacity from the country we are in to Amsterdam. This would save us actually 16,750 euro per month. Again, not including labor, depreciation for the equipment, and all that travel expenses and extra labor, remote hands and stuff. So when we can save 16,750, it's probably more worth, and we would go that way. And it's an interesting case of peering, an interesting business case.
Fredy, that's 25,000 euros per month from where to?
From the country in this example.
Any country?
I mean, it should work. The model should work for every country, but of course you have to change then, or to take the real figures into the calculation. So as of today, I think I cannot buy a 10 gig connection from Ghana, as an example, to Amsterdam for 25,000 per month. But probably in 1 or 2 years, I will be able. The more cable land in Africa, the more capacity is available, and the cheaper it will get. So this is what we see in other parts of the world. Just to make an example, maybe 2-3 years ago, the price for transatlantic from London to New York was $25,000 per month. Now I can buy the same for $8,000 per month. So this is where it goes, and probably my example is not working today, or you have to adjust it with your own figures. This is where it would go, but the model itself is pretty much in line with what you presented this morning when you did this curve. The only disagreement I had there is the more transit you buy, the cheaper will it get per megabit. So Okay, I mean, the model would work for any country, but of course, the closer you are in Europe, the cheaper it will get for transport, of course.